And I've now hit the recording button. So if not everybody during the live feed of the meeting, if you don't see the transcript, it is appearing in my screen as it would in a regular feature film if I had subtitles. And I'm hoping that after I catch the recording of this meeting, that as we archive it and repost it, that at the very least, these transcripted narratives will show up at the bottom of that screen.
Mine shows up.
Oh, we've got some Jimi Hendrix feedback going on from somebody's microphone.
Yeah, that's probably me.
Oh, we're gonna bring in Terry Kerr and Rosalie Jones.
Hey.
Hi, Rosalie. I think this will work now. Try it.
No, that's
I
good.
think Doobie is on twice, so we're getting an echo from Doobie.
Sure. Let me see what I can, if I can take Doobie out.
I can unmute.
How's that now? Oh, Doobie's there again.
Can you? It might be our devices. Our devices are too close.
Oh, maybe our devices are too close. Okay, we'll do that.
I'm gonna remove the second Doobie.
Oh,
Yes, one is enough.
My goodness. Hi, Rosalie. Hi, Terry.
I had to turn my microphone off.
Hello, everyone. Hey,
Hi, Rosalie. Oh, how lovely to see you. Or Billy.
We're bringing Susan in.
no.
Terry, there you are.
I see
Yeah.
Terry and I see Karen and I see Rosalie. Hi, Terry.
hello. It is raining at my house, and that means that my satellite network is not as reliable. So if I cut out, I will just keep coming back.
Okay. It rained earlier at my house.
I think I probably need to step.
Where are you, Doobie?
I don't know. I think I'm on Timmy's screen. Oh, yeah, I am. I can see myself on his screen, but not my phone.
Well, it's
Well,
pick.
I was letting Susan in, but it would appear that she's struggling to come into the meeting.
Susan Kritzberg?
I don't know, just Susan.
It's probably Susan. I hope it's Susan Kritzberg.
I've learned not to second guess the doubling of names amongst our ever-growing ranks.
So Terry, you're in the same house.
Well, you know, I'm going to start our meeting now, and I'll keep monitoring the waiting room and letting people in as we move forward. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We were going to be featuring the Capo to Valley Studio PowerPoint that Barbara created for her PhD thesis back in 79, Barbara?
74.
74, forgive me. But due to the passing of Reid some 9 days ago, of course, we've changed that focus. And tonight we thought it was more than appropriate to make this a tribute to Reid Gilbert. And to that end, I would like to welcome our special guests, Reid's daughter, Tari Gilbert, Reid's other daughter, Karen Gilbert, and to Barbara Banks and to Adrian Gilbert, who I saw on my screen earlier, and I think they're still with us. I'm looking for them, but I'm not seeing them currently. Perchance they'll be able to rejoin us. Does anybody see Adrian?
We
and
are
Barbara?
here, Craig,
Oh.
under Barbara Banks.
Oh, thank you very much, Adrian. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
We're going to bring in Marguerite Matthews now.
Close to my.
Joan Merwin.
I'm just waiting for Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, we're still getting that Alfred Hitchcock Bird soundtrack coming through.
Can they mute?
Well, we don't know whose device might be bringing that in.
Okay,
But
that was Doobie.
Hi, Joan. Hi, Marguerite.
Well,
And I just shut off my device.
You're just muted. Well,
I was just saying earlier, before you joined, that we have activated the live transcript, closed captioning, which you can find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you click the up arrow there, you can click on full transcript, and that should create a sidebar over to the right of your screen, therein capturing in printout as best as it can the narratives that we'll be sharing tonight. Hopefully, I'm recording this meeting, and when I archive it and repost it on the Facebook page and send it out in email, preferably then, this transcript will appear with that archive recording. John, Karen, Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Hi. I'll pick it up from here. Our gratitude to Reid's family over the past few months, especially the last few weeks. They opened up their hearts to all of us and allowed all of us to speak to Reid and how he enjoyed all of those conversations. So as colleagues and the Valley Studio community, I'd like to just take, say, 10 seconds of our collective time now to think about Reid, to express our gratitude to him, to honor him through any of our memories, our self-memories, our reflections, a meditation in silence. The meditation will begin with the word peace and will end with the word peace. 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 Thank you all. One of the updates that we have received from the family that's here is that there will be a celebration of life for Reid, Dr. E. Reid Gilbert at a Tucson Methodist Church. It's scheduled for August 6th at 10 a.m. and we will be able to join it on Zoom. So once we get the information from the family as to how to join it on Zoom, then we will send that information out to all of you via the Facebook page, as well as the Valley Studio email that we send out to you. So, Bill, if you'd like to talk about the email address that we have.
Sure.
I too would like to welcome everyone. It's so good to see such a large gathering for this meeting. If you get a chance, down at the bottom of the screen, if you see the chat icon, if you click on that chat icon, in chat, I have included our new email address and also our mission statement. Early on, before we created the email account, we were using my email address as our mailing address, but now we have our own email address. So from now on, any messages you receive from us, official messages, should be on that official email address. If for any reason there's a problem, if your server sends it to spam or junk mail or whatever your account does, contact us and we'll try to fix that for you. Or just be aware that we have that new email address. So again, welcome everybody. Good to have you here.
Immediately following the last Zoom meeting that we had, and Reid was able to be with us, James Donlin of the Radio Mime interview podcast contacted us with an interest in preserving Reid through an interview process, his legacy, as well as Valley Studio. And it was also suggested that he have a partner. So we had Adrian Gilbert scheduled to be with Reid in Tucson, and we asked Barbara Lee to join since she worked with Reid very early on, and also was at Valley Studio and have memories of that place as well. So I want to definitely give a shout out to James Donlin and Karen Hoyer and the producer Michael Diaz for scheduling us. That meeting was going to take place on May 29th. And unfortunately, we lost Reid the day before. But the family, once again, were going to be so generous with their time that even during that week, as they were preparing Barbara, James, and Karen for the interview, the family remained open that, well, perhaps we just have the computer turned on or the cell phones on and he could listen to the audio, although he would not be able to participate. But to the end, they have been so generous with their time and including us with them through this whole process. So the interview took place with Barbara. Barbara Lee went forward, and it will be aired in 2 to 3 months. And again, we will post that on Facebook as well as the email account. But we've asked Barbara if today she could share her feelings about doing that interview at a time, of course, which was within 24 hours of losing her first partner in mime. So also some of her memories from the interview, and then also what was the gift. So Barbara, if you don't mind, take it over. It's your show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's so good to see you. Well, it was a very special time for all of us. I was in the midst of so many, inundated with so many memories of Reid and my time at Valley Studio. It was an absolute life-changing time for me. I had never been exposed to mime. I accidentally stumbled on it because I was working on my dissertation about Jacques Capot's School for Actors, and mime was at the center of that school. So of course I had to study it. And there was this opportunity. Reid was giving a performance in Madison and offering workshops. So I went to the performance and I was just totally blown away. I decided that's really what I wanted to do with my life. And so I started taking workshops from Reid, and I was able to go to Valley Studio and the ambiance, the whole environment, Reid's attitude towards theater was so unusual. I mean, he had such an incredibly rich background in not just Western theater, but Eastern theater. Certainly, he spent time in India. He studied with Japanese instructors. He's really, and as a minister, he also had a kind of a very spiritual sense of mime and what it can mean. It's the respect for all life, and the whole concept of respect was really central. They would say it comes from the Latin spectare, to look, re again, to keep looking again and again, and never take yourself or anything else for granted. And that concept has stayed with me all this time and has seen me through so many very dark times when I just was hitting walls and realizing, keep looking, Barbara, keep looking. So I just have so much gratitude for Reid and all that he did. Also, I just never realized that I could be creative in that sense. My mother was an actress, and I kind of hated regular theater because women in regular theater was so bitchy at the time. I was like, oh. When I was studying mime, I was like, no, I could be anything. I mean, I could be any form of life. I could be a rock, I could be the tree, I could be the butterfly. It was so absolutely transformative to realize that as a mime, you just have access to all aspects of life and within you, and you can bring that to other people and share that sense of our connectedness was just absolutely, it was magical. So I just really, really enjoyed being able to talk about how Reid did that. I was telling about how Reid would start his workshops with a Japanese concept of you clean the floor first. You create the space that feels safe and respectful. And the physical space can be very important to your attitude towards everything else. And then that respect for the space translates to other people. And the concept used, of course, mask work was something that I had studied through the Vieux Colombier School, it was very basic to the training for those students. But I hadn't realized the kind of emotional and spiritual connection with the mask that's covering all these different traditions. And the way Reid worked with the self mask was also very special. He had us work in partners, and working with a partner, you would both cut up the plaster bandage, and then we would put it on each other's faces in kind of a ritualistic way. And then just even once the mask was hardened, there was a ritual of taking off the mask and looking at it. And there was a lot of silence, a lot of inner peace in the processes that he worked with. So just very unusual and, as I keep saying, transformative.
Great. So Barbara, what about the gifts?
Oh, I have to tell you, just getting to that. Yes, I got this wonderful gift. It's from the Mime Museum. You can see that. And here it is. See if you can guess. This is supposedly the actual dress from the Valley Studio. So that's really sweet.
Very sweet.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to tell you all.
Thank you, Barbara.
Barbara, could you give us a little bit of the thumbnail sketch of the history wherein you started the Friends Mime Theater in Milwaukee?
Oh, well, I was working on my dissertation while I was at the studio, but there was just no way I could finish it while I was there. It was just much too exciting to be doing the work. So I moved to Milwaukee, back to living with my parents, working on the whole dissertation and going, what do I do? So I started teaching mime classes. And to my amazement, this was in the early days. This was in like 1972, 3. And so 10 people showed up for the class, then 20 people showed up, then 30 people showed up. Pretty soon there were 40 people that wanted to study mime. I was like, okay, let's do this. We had 2 classes, and Karen Kohlberg was one of the people in the class, and Mike Moynihan. And Mike Moynihan was the most unusual of all of them, because he could really take the whole concept of mime and make stories that had impact, that had a really emotional depth to them. So I was like, I'd like to work with this guy. Plus, he was extremely funny. So it was just very tempting to continue to work with him. And that's kind of how things worked out. We started just as friends. We decided we would work together and create a show. Our first show was called A Myth of Changes. And it used mime, but it went beyond mime. It incorporated puppetry. Like the main characters were a balloon, an umbrella, and a bag. And so these all were characters in this that kind of morphed into each other. And it was all about the transformation of the power of the imagination to transform reality. So in that piece, I become a butterfly. I think became a bird, and Mike shoots me down, and I die, and then I'm resurrected. And the same thing happens with the umbrella. With the Mike played, we played 2 characters that were kind of like ourselves. Like I was the balloon because I'm kind of bouncy and I try to keep it afloat. And Mike is wonderfully protective when the umbrella is open, but when the umbrella is closed, he could be very sharp and kind of satirical and not quite so nice. So in that scene with the balloon and the umbrella, he's really trying to kind of take down the balloon, kind of like, no, don't do that. And so the balloon completely deflates and just folds over right over the umbrella. And the umbrella is really upset. So the balloon just kind of falls back over backstage, and the umbrella is trying to find the balloon, and eventually the balloon hops out again, and the umbrella opens up, and the balloon rests inside the umbrella, and they both go off. And it was a wonderfully metaphorical piece about transformation in a lot of different ways. So that really got us going, and gradually we started working with Karen, and we started developing. We did a lot of street mime, which was Mike was just incredibly wonderful at that because he could be so in the moment. And he was very large and kind of, he had this character of always being in the moment and just being so surprised by everything. So when he was trying to step off a curb, for example, he'd be approaching him very cautiously, 1 foot out, and then kids would come by and they'd help him they'd help him stand off there. So we would create all kinds of things. I learned so much from him just by the way he would just be there, and suddenly things would change. Like, oh, you would see this, he'd start unraveling somebody's shirt. And gradually it would turn into a jump rope, and it was just kind of that kind of transformative play. It was just so much fun. And Karen, as I was saying, Karen has so many gifts. And when we started working with her, we developed a whole new angle of trying to work with with current events. Like we did a show called Farewell to Farms or Food Reviewed. And that was all about the economics and politics of food, working with puppets, working with all kinds of like just short scenes. And the company kind of morphed from those short scene satires into a larger piece where we worked in the summer with, we did free to the public performances of the Cream City Semi-Circus. I mean, I could go on and on, but let me just say, we went on for the last 45 years. We ended in 2018. We morphed into Milwaukee Public Theater because we got tired of telling people why we talk. And I'm saying, no, you don't understand. Mime just means to imitate. So we were trying to educate people when it got a little old. So, yeah, it's been a wonderful ride. I just am so grateful to Reid for getting me started and helping along the way. He's always been, in fact, in the last 2 years, we spent a lot of time corresponding, and he shared his book with me, the book about his teachings, and they're just wonderful. I just can't wait until he can publish this because I think you all are going to really enjoy it. Really beautiful. So I was so happy that I had a chance to reconnect with him in that way. It was very powerful. And thanks for letting me tell about it.
No, thank you so much, Barbara. Karen, should we, is the slideshow up next?
Yeah,
Oh, great.
sorry, I thought you were gonna take it. Yeah, we moved to the slideshow now, Craig.
Okay, thanks. I made just a remembrance slide show of Reid. It's 3 minutes long. And my skills on movie editing software are pretty primitive. So I think we're going to move over to that now. If you just hold on for a second, I'm going to share my screen, bring up the video, we'll start it, and then we'll regather.
And there's music with it.
There is music with it. Live, I'll be performing it. I have a trombone and a violin behind me, and
Great.
now I'm lying completely. Hold on.
So do you want any comments on these?
Absolutely, if you'd like to.
Sure. Well, this is Karen Kohlberg on the left.
Oh,
Looking, Angel Vigil in the center, and Eugene Rubenzer. They were part of our Queen City Semi-Circus.
oh, thank you. I thought I'd started the video. Let me start one more time.
Nice.
Yeah. Makes the eyes tear up.
Beautiful.
We'll be posting the video we just saw out on email as well as on the Facebook group too. So you can watch it in postscript whenever you like to. Oh.
Hey,
If
I
you're,
to say after Barbara comments, Barbara, that first summer before he started, or actually it was in the spring before he was starting the school at all. And then we had you and Reid come to University of Michigan.
Oh, yes.
That's when I first met Reid and you, and we had you come for a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Reid said he was gonna start this school, and did I wanna come for the summer? So I got a babysitter, my boyfriend at the time for Tim, and off I went, and that's when we were doing mask work and kabuki.
Yes.
And I brought a friend from University of Michigan, Carlos, who was dark, very dark black guy. And we were doing our mask thing like you described. And at one point, Carlos decided to do a trust walk by himself and walk down the dirt road. Well, there were no black people in that area at all. And one of the locals drove down the road in his Jeep and saw Carlos walking on the dirt road in his mask with no eyes, only his nostrils, no mouth, to the ditch with his Jeep and had to get towed out.
Oh, no.
That was just one of our little mask adventures.
Thank you.
I remember when we made our masks, it was always the tradition by the time I made mine that we went out on those trust walks.
Right,
Yes.
right.
and it was an anxiety inspiring situation because you're sitting with new students you don't really know, and your face is covered in that cold, wet plaster of Paris, and they're taking you by the hand, and we were leaving the schoolhouse or wherever it was where we applied the plaster. And
Yeah.
I also recall that we had trust exercises where we were blindfolded, just with a cloth across our eyes.
Right.
And then, of course, we had our friend, he's since passed. I want to say Ron from South Carolina, one of the cloggers.
Ron Anderson.
Thank you, Ron Anderson. Yes. And another exercise we would do is blindfolded. They would put us on a plank and they would hold our hands, and then Reid would have them elevate the plank perchance 8 inches off the ground. But being blindfolded, you didn't know how high up you were. But it was Ron who fell and broke his ankle from only 8 inches up in the air. And thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't do that any longer. Or falling off the porch of the Valley Studio into the arms of of our classmates that had made a web of arms, that trust exercise of. And I, of course, I continued using that when I was teaching Acting 101 at the university. However, they weren't up on raised platforms. We just had the students stand, and the group behind them of approximately 4 students on each side would form a web of arms and drop it slightly beneath their waist. And then we'd have them close their eyes and lean back so that they could free fall and feel the security of being caught in their hands.
The main thing about Reid is he always taught us to teach.
Yeah. That's
And most of us went on to teach.
There were really some incredible concepts behind what he taught, not just technique, which is great.
I think this might be a good time for us to go into our breakout rooms.
Uh-oh, what does that mean?
That means I push a button and we all scatter into rooms with other participants, but only 4 or 5 other participants. And it allows us to share our stories on a more intimate level. And everybody should unmute themselves, introduce yourselves, give a little background. So if you don't know who's in your room with you. And we'll stay in those breakout rooms for 15 minutes. And then automatically we'll all come back into a large group room. And we can share what we experienced in those breakout rooms. So I've named the rooms. There's the Decru room, the Lecoq room, the Capot room, the Marceau room, the Gilbert room, and the Dimitri room. So if we'll all hold on, I'm going to open the rooms and we'll scatter, and we'll come back together at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The captioning did not do very well. There we go.
Now I've got the captioning. Hopefully that will be more of a opportunity for the recording.
Correctly
Yeah.
steered that, but let me see if I can,
Well,
Craig,
Yes.
I'm gonna back out. If you want to put me in David's room, then I can interpret for
Well,
you.
David is in this room, but
Oh, he is?
yeah,
Okay.
but he didn't. Let me see what
Maybe he failed.
let me see here for a second. Let me go back there. Which room are we in? The Marceau?
Marcel.
The Marceau room. That would be
Yeah.
great to have David.
It says David Harper not joined.
Maybe he didn't know how.
Well, it should be automatic.
It
No,
should
it's
be.
not. Well, no, you have to click. It says
Well, I
join
did.
now.
I sent everybody into the room. Let me go back and see
He
if I
has
can
other
find
things to
David
do.
and bring him back into this room.
Well, I wanted to say, Judith, it is because of David that I learned how to sign. So,
Did he teach you the same thing that he taught me at first, which is my turtle is dead. That was my introduction to American Sign Language. Yep.
no,
Although I-
So anyways, that was kind of, but I think the one thing I remember about Reid is that one day he took me from the studio to Spring Green, I believe. And I had never taken a class from him in the year I was there. And I was a little shy, kind of a shy person, but it's more so then than now. But it was so easy to talk to him. And I felt like, despite the fact that I hadn't had a class with him, that he knew me. And for me, that was really affirming somehow. And it's not like that's something that stuck with me. There's many things that I have forgotten that are vague in my memory of that period of time. But that one contact was kind of like an anchor in a way in my own life. So, and that
into speaking theater. And in fact, what I do mostly now is just travel around and direct plays. I just got some of the huge production of My Fair Lady.
Wow.
And biggest challenge is going to be the play that went wrong, which is, I saw it on Broadway. It's like everything falls apart in the play, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's a big technical challenge. And I've been an artist in residence in Oklahoma since I moved here from Wisconsin.
Where are you? In Oklahoma?
79. And then on the touring group, we did have the Prime Mime Time Players with Craig Sylvie and Joe and I that toured for quite a while. And then Zap, the Zany Arts Players, which was a commedia troupe that we toured around with for like 15 years.
Wow. Wow.
And mostly as an artist in residence, I'd spend time in schools, doing
Yeah,
projects.
I did that.
Yeah, writing plays with them, and so I'm still doing that. But that's the thing about Reid, he taught us how to teach. When I was an apprentice, I would just go with him on workshops and watch him teach, and learn how to teach, which a lot of artists don't do. They can do their art form, whatever it is, visual art, performing arts, whatever, but they don't know how to teach. But
Right.
that was one thing we all learned at the studio, is how to teach and the love of teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally relate to that. And I feel like I got that from DeCrue. He really showed me that, art is fine, but teaching is really where a lot of very important stuff happens, and
Right.
community is built. And yeah.
And you learn from teaching so much.
You're right. You're right. And I think Marguerite, like you, continued doing the yeoman's work of performing and presenting and creating.
Still doing it, 44 years.
Yeah.
My
Hey, what do you
organization.
Marguerite?
I'm in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And
my experience at Valley Studio was really life-changing for me. I had just gotten married, and I had studied with DeCrew for 2 winters, and then had studied with Tom while he was down in Arkansas one winter. And then when I came back to I was always coming back to Portsmouth because I had a good summer job here. So I would always come back and make money and then kind of subsidize my life over the winter with that savings. And I had just gotten married and I was planning on staying in Portsmouth. And Tom called and asked me if I was interested in coming. And I would be helping him with administrative stuff, which is what I had done for him when he was in Arkansas. So I came not to assist him in teaching, but to assist him in doing office work and things. And I also drove him around to all of his solo things that he did. So he didn't have a car. And I also drove him into Spring Green for sticky buns.
It's Squeaks Bakery.
but it was like the whole DeCrew point of view really got expanded for me being at Valley Studio. And I also got an opportunity to learn about the field because one of my assignments was doing the second iteration of the International Mimes and Pantomimists directory, which had been Paul Curtis's baby before then. And so under the guidance of Reid and Tom, I put that all together. And it just put me in touch with the whole field and many different points of view about that form. And I found that it really enlightening. And also that everyone who was there, when we all came in as DeCrew people, were so accepting, so respectful.
Yes.
I mean, we were coming in really with like a different point of view, and we were just felt as though we were as welcome as could be, which I was very impressed with, and how it really, I think because of the leadership of Reid, that we all felt like we were part of the same family.
Well, and because Reid always implemented every discipline in the studio, we had anything that had to do with mime, with movement or theater, we did.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Craig.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Karen. Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Hi. We lost Billy. He was here a minute ago.
I shoved him over to another room
Oh,
where there were only 3 people participating and thought I could, I jump him around since.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Billy was taken out.
All right.
We were just talking about, this is very interesting to me, Peter, that how a teacher can set things up so that people are cooperative as opposed to competitive. That's a gift as a teacher. That's pretty, like Joan says, very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wish I had some more of that when I was training with various people.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, there was unnecessary competition kind of energy. I don't think anybody tried to cultivate it, but I don't think anybody tried to not intentionally, like it sounds like Reid did, intentionally create a space where that wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
For learning.
Yeah. I think whenever there's a group of people who sort of form either voluntarily or, under involuntary circumstances, there's a certain hierarchy and political kind of, activity that starts to happen amongst people just naturally. And I never felt any of that at Valley Studio.
No.
That's so beautiful.
No.
That is so beautiful to hear.
Yeah. So many teachers are it's not really about the work or about the students, it's about them. And it's a gift to find a teacher that is emphasizing what each person can bring to the work.
Well, in the Valley Studio, being that it was as close as I've ever come to experiencing a community based on sharing. In the classroom, there was the hierarchy of the leader, but then you were washing dishes with them, you were eating with them, you were going into Spring Green to watch a movie with them, and that cultivated abstract resonation that when I later went into academics at the University of Wisconsin to achieve my MFA, I didn't have that intimacy with my instructors.
Right.
In context, I saw them Tuesdays
Right.
at 10 a.m. And then at 2 p.m., I saw another instructor. And so all of those obstacles were broken down, were put aside at the Valley Studio, and we lived together. It was so magical. It was so extraordinary.
Very much so. That sounds very rare.
What, when the Valley Studio was in process, what was the schedule like?
I recall we gathered down in the main lounge at about, I believe it was 6 a.m. for yoga. It was elective. It was led by John Aiden, and we'd go through our yoga for approximately 1 hour. Then we would tromp up to the kitchen, have our breakfast from about 7 to 8. And then classes would commence, generally I recall around 8:30 or 9 a.m. And it would be tiered electives. So down in the schoolhouse would be a ballet bar with Sally Lebhart. And then out on the outdoor stage, there might be circus technique with Hovey Burgess. And this would continue throughout the day. Of course, lunch would be from 12 to 1, and then more afternoon classes, and then dinner, and then generally a rehearsal period in the evening, or
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans, yeah, precisely, Peter. We might be working on masks. We might go up to the barn to work on costumes. There might be slack rope out in the yard. So it was a very rich and fertile time. Now, our summer sessions, Karen, were usually 2-week sessions. That's when there was a higher density of students. But then during the more traditional academic period, which would be September through about December 10th, and then resurrecting, we never came back to the studio until March because of the harsh winters and the frozen pipes and all of that. But we'd regather in March and then have our academic term. And that would be a little bit more intimate, fewer people. We fell into a rhythm that would then aggressively pick up as the summer sessions came along.
Is the J in our group Joey Daly?
That's Joey. Yep.
I have to say one of my fondest memories is being in Joey's truck, and he would be at the top of Lower Wyoming, and then just coast all the way down in this aluminum truck where you were terrified. And then the other thing, and the other thing was that he did a spontaneous acoustic version of David Bowie's Young Americans.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that.
In the kitchen. And it was stunning. So thank you, Joey.
I guess we'll be, oh, there's our man.
Sorry, guys. I just got off work and I joined late and I missed a lot.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks for joining us, Joe. We're going to leave our breakout rooms in about 40 seconds, and then we'll return to the main room.
Thanks so much for doing this. It's really been great.
It's wonderful. Thanks.
It's nice. I wish we could all be in person.
I know.
But at least we have this.
Yep, this is amazing.
Even 5 years ago, we would have had to do WebEx or something even a little bit more remedial.
Right.
All right, I'll catch up.
See you over there
on the main site.
Peter Kettler, I apologize for jumping out, and I don't know how it happened, but I landed in another meeting, so sorry about jumping out in the middle of your sentence there, Peter.
Oh, that was me, Billy. Sorry. I was shuttling people around to fill up as the rooms were decreasing in number and increasing.
Transported, it was a
Exactly.
surprise.
Yeah. Our cell room needs Billy Fisher. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to run. Craig, where are you? Can you hear me? Yes, I have to run. So I'm sorry about that. It's and all of that. So thank you very much, and much love to all of you, and to Barbara, and to the kids of Reid, and to Reid also. Okay, so see you folks. Bye.
Bye, Stephen. Thank you. John.
Yes.
Didn't you have a poem that you wanted to share with us?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did. Yeah, well, you know, I learned a lot about poetry from Reid, and I read a lot of poetry, and big part of our, you know, me and my family. And so I was looking for something, and I think I found just the thing. It was a poem of Reid's that he posted in the Valley Studio, More Than a Place book. And Reid had, it's a story at the end. It's about his summer homecoming in 2011. He spent some time with the Graves, and then Robert Graves was passing, and actually did pass, and Reid came back, you know, for Robert's memorial, to do part of that service. And he wrote a poem for Robert Graves' memorial service. And Robert and Terry Graves were two of the people that helped bring Reid to the Wyoming Valley, to the Uplands Art, well, actually it was the Upland Art Council, but bring him out, you know, to that area, and were friends and supporters of Reid for forever after that. Anyway, Reid wrote this poem for his friend, so I'd like to share it and read it for us, for our friend. It's called Death is More. Death is more than passing over, though it is that and much more. It is a cessation of shared work and play, as we have enjoyed so oft before. But there will be times and days ahead when those of us left here behind will remember past times of joy, vividly bringing those moments to mind. There will be occasions in the days ahead when great wisdom will be received by the ones on this side of the mysterious door, as spoken directly by the one gone before. And as we lay to rest the mortal frame, may we be comforted by the memories of his life, and now embracing each other in his name, be comforted in our present joy or strife. So thank you, Reid. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Is there any other words or memories that anyone would like to share within the larger collective, the larger group?
I'd kind of like to start this off in that in my breakout room, I was fortunate. I was with Barbara Lee, who was one of Reid's first partners on Valley Studio, and the women that Reid was with at the end. You know, Tari Gilbert, Adrian Gilbert, Karen Gilbert, and Barbara Banks. It was a wonderful meeting, and it was so nice to touch base with them and hear those stories of, you know, of Reid as being a partner and a loving person, and always being comfortable with everybody, never getting upset. And we did mention, after seeing that slideshow, one of the things that Reid never gets enough credit for is he has good hair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would like to say something.
Please. Yeah.
So I feel, so I've been doing physical theater for over 50 years, and I was, like Reid is probably 15, 16 years older than I am. And I know that I'm one of the last generation, like we all are, because mime and physical theater has gone through these ebbs and valleys of popularity and visibility. But I feel that people like Reid, who planted the seeds that are so important to our, not only our spiritual in the broader universal sense, but I think pioneers like that are those are the rocks and stones of our foundation of the art form that we've loved and maybe continue to do. And for me, it's very emotional because a life spent like Reid spent his life is so inspiring and so wholesome, and not in a way like a milk commercial, but in the way that it brings nurturing and sustenance to the human spirit. And I was in the first big mime festival they had, as I know Joan was, in 1974 in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yes.
And I think Reid was a co-organizer of that event with a couple of other people. And that was the first big sort of revelation for Americans, as well as people from other parts of the country. It was a very big gathering of noted artists. Lecoq was there, and Momoko from Japan was there, and Fialka from Czech Republic was there, and Robert Shields was there, who went on to popularize mime for a period of time in the United States. And I know Thomas Lebhart did a Decru demonstration, as I remember. But it was a time, what's his name? Cibor Turba from Czech Republic was there, which just rocked our minds with the idea of the theater clown. And of course, Dimitri, I think it was Dimitri's first performance. Mummenschanz was there. I think they'd only been in the States once before. And so this event was just mind shaping and set and influence people to this day how to take their journey. And I just, Reid is one of the Valley Studio is an archetype and is a model for how maybe an arts experience should be, because I think universities are, in terms of the arts, are having problems now, and they may even be outdated. The arts in universities may not be the same in 20 years, having spent a lot of times in universities. There's a lot of movement in the cosmos about that sort of thing. So Valley Studio model is where it will continue to be a role model for what can happen with arts training. And we all know it's so important for the younger generations to be exposed to the arts, because that, to this day, and a civilization is only remembered through its arts for the most part, as they say, and that's very true. So anyway, I'd like to thank Reid for a life well spent, and it's wonderful to see that he influenced, just the people that are here, which is, I'm sure, a small number that he did. So.
No, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
being.
James. Thank you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he passed just a day or two before we were going to interview him. That was, I don't know, maybe there's some kind of hidden silver lining there that, will appear, so.
Yeah. So everyone, Barbara asked me to read this poem that Dad had written, Till It Doesn't Matter Anymore. I'll keep on going till it doesn't matter anymore, and doing and making till it doesn't matter anymore. I'll sing and dance and breathe till it doesn't matter anymore, to walk and run if necessary till it doesn't matter anymore. Somehow now it doesn't hurt so much, as it doesn't matter anymore.
Nice.
Thanks, Adrian. One of the amazing things about Reid, about the Valley Studio, is it opened my eyes. The discipline of creativity, Reid created a portal through which anybody could walk. It could be a farmer. It could be a former steel worker. It could be somebody wanting a degree in theater. It could be somebody who already had dance experience. I remember meeting new apprentices at the studio. Well, what school are you coming from? Oh, I don't know. I was studying physics and I got sick of that. And so I thought movement is where I should be. And as we walked through that portal, we all learned to appreciate the creative essence that was in everybody. And later on, when I took my MFA at the University of Wisconsin and I was teaching Introduction to Theater, there were many young people that were coming in and going, I don't know if I belong in an acting class. I don't want to be an actor. And I said, well, you don't have to want to be an actor. We're going to discover the creative process in there. That's a gift that Reid gave me. Reid gave me the opportunity to recognize creativity in everybody I meet. And I have been so thankful for that. Because when I am working with, these days I find myself working with politicians. I find myself working with historians. And if my eye can open up the creativity that I see in them, our relationship becomes steadfast, it becomes intimate, and it becomes productive. And before coming to the Valley Studio, I thought I had to find the right college, the right academic program in order for me to become the actor I knew that I was. And Reid abolished all of that and brought to my eyes that we are all creative. And it's our duty to go out and inspire and nurture the creativity in the people we meet and in the lives that we lead. And so many of us have left that path of theater performance, yet I think we all nurture the respective creativity in our personal and intimate lives and in our professional lives. And that blew my mind and opened doors that I still am opening today. So to that extent, among many other things, I have no one else but Reid to thank for that, and for the rest of you for helping me keep it alive. So thank you all.
That was so beautifully said. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Timmy and the girls were the only kids that grew up at Valley Studio.
Yeah.
Almost out in the 70s, and they survived it all.
And that again was something very nice. There were these kids running around. It was, I mean, I left graduate school when I first came there, and there were people just out of high school, people out of college. There was people, these kids there. There were the dogs, Smokey, Thistle, and Jella.
Remember when we would do our proms and the dog became one of the dogs, I can't remember.
Thistle.
Became
prom
queen
queen.
of prom.
And then later that year, she was run over by the UPS truck.
Oh,
and Thistle's crown had to be retired. And then Jim and Marty Van Eman came up from Arkansas, and they brought their dog. And I remember that Jim and Marty's dog was chained outside the barn, and Smokey was chained so that they could approach each other but never touch. And that lasted for about 48 hours. And then they were fine after that. And they ran around together. But I also remember, this is not mythology, this is actually quite accurate. Mrs. Wright's, Mr. Wright's granddaughter was taking ballet at the Valley Studio. Eve, I believe was her name. And she would come over for Jan Fritz's ballet classes. And we had the sign out there, please don't let your dog out of the car. And Mrs. Wright came over and she had to pay the tuition bill. And Wes drove her over, and she brought her dog Pretty Boy and got out of the car, and Smokey went immediately up to Pretty Boy and broke Pretty Boy's neck. And Mrs. Wright was, oh my God, what has happened? And she walked up with Wes to the office where Nina was, and she asked for the telephone, and she picked up the telephone and she called over and she said, oh no, Wes wasn't with her. Wes had dropped her off. She said, Wesley, come pick me up. Pretty boy is dead. And she put the phone down, and then she walked from the office down to the schoolhouse, walked in, opened the door and said, Eve, come with me. We're leaving this wretched place. And interrupting Jan's ballet class. And Wes pulls up, and Mrs. Wright and Eve go out to the car, and they get into the car and they drive off, leaving Pretty Boy there. And I remember we don't know what to do with Pretty Boy. So we just left him over to the side. And then about 4 hours later, Joe Fabris came over and picked up Pretty Boy and disappeared. And we weren't invited back to Taliesin for about 3 or 4 more years after that. Terry, you'll recall up in the orchard at Taliesin, there was a headstone for Pretty Boy, but that was a dramatic dog interaction between Mrs. Wright's Pretty Boy and good old Smokey.
Yeah, it happened so quickly. Nobody could do anything to stop it.
Oh.
Well, the school bus used to pick up Timmy on the dirt road and take him to Dodgeville when we first got there. And I went to my first teacher conference. And later, especially when I started working in the schools as an artist in residence, I don't know how he ever endured that teacher. She was like, she said to me, what position is Timmy in when he's doing his homework, you know? And I'm thinking, well, I'm picturing Timmy doing his homework up in the guy's dorm with his feet up on a bunk bed, listening to Three Dog Night, you know, which was his favorite song at the time. And I said, well, I don't really think it matters what position he's in when he's doing his homework, as long as he's doing his homework. I mean, he's only in 3rd grade, right? And she said, I think that the children should be sitting up straight with their feet flat on the floor so the oxygen can really get to their brain. And I said, and I'm thinking, oh, poor Tim. He has to be with that woman all day and then come home to the studio. Yeah. And she as a reward, he was always into visual art, you know, and encouraged at the studio by other visual artists. And in her class, if she deemed a piece of artwork worthy, then she would take it and show it to her Sunday school class. And this one little girl was in trouble because she had decided to draw a rooster with no head. These are all farm children in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. You know, how many chickens did you see without their heads? Of course she's gonna draw. And then after that, in 4th grade, then he was in Spring Green, and things were a lot better for him. The teachers were better, and that woman wasn't there anymore. But what is weird is when we moved to Oklahoma, I wanted to get back into speaking theater. Joe wanted some serious corporeal mime students, and Timmy was going in 8th grade. So I said, well, let's move to Norman. That's where University of Oklahoma is, and all the professors' children will be in school, so the schools will be better than in the city, in Oklahoma City. So we moved to Norman, and I went and enrolled him in school, and they were doing work in 8th grade that he had done in Wisconsin in 4th grade.
Oh,
he was so bored with school from then on. It was bad.
Well, Kay, did you go to those parent-teacher conferences in whiteface?
No. But I did have a job bartending for a while at the Round Barn, and then in that weird place in Wisconsin, in Dodgeville, across from there, people would say things. What do you mine down there? You know, like, is it coal or what is it?
If I put a quarter in this jukebox, can you mime it for me?
I recall when Marty and Diana Pertzborn would get ready for our mailings. Now, back in those days, we had to do bulk mailings by hand, and it included thousands of envelopes. And we would periodically through the year all gather at Bob's House of Friends, Bob Sheneman's bar on the corner in Spring Green. And we would have spaghetti dinner and bulk mailing. And each of us would be given like 300 to 400 envelopes, and we would sort them according to zip code. And then we put them into boxes. And it would take 3 hours. And then we'd drive back out to the studio, and inevitably Diana Pertzborn would gather them, drive them to the post office in Spring Green, and then sit there with the postmaster general as she would say, okay, we got to mail these 1,000 envelopes out. And it would be a summer announcement, or it would be a PR element to draw more apprentices. But Bob's house was really sort of the bar that we gathered at.
Oh, yeah.
I always think of in the song in Oklahoma, oh, the cowboys and the farmers will be friends. Well, it was the mimes and the farmers will be friends. Reid and all of us challenged the local Spring Green softball team to a game. And the winning prize was a keg of beer at Bob's Friendly Tavern. And Reid was the pitcher, the softball pitcher, and he was in his bib overalls. And
barefoot. He's barefoot.
Yeah, and barefoot. And
no shirt, just overalls.
Yeah, I had my clipboard, and they were in uniforms and cleats, right?
Oh,
well, mime cheerleaders in whiteface and leotards, and they would come in for a home run, and the cheerleaders would build an invisible wall to keep them from getting to. At halftime, we had entertainment, unicycles and fire juggling and everything. And then we all went to Bob's Friendly Tavern and drank that keg of beer.
So you all won, I guess.
Well, we didn't win, but we put up a good game.
One of the first things we did as Friends of Mime Theater was we had our own clown baseball team.
That's
take on some of the local baseball teams, and we always were silly and crazy about it. Yeah, it was great.
Barbara, did you have a storefront theater in Milwaukee, or did you predominantly just perform in the parks? And where was your rehearsal space in Milwaukee?
Well, we actually were on the third floor of what used to be the Water Street Art Center.
Okay.
And it was condemned. So we got to stay there pretty much for free. And it was a wonderful space, nice wood floor, windows all around. There was access to an outdoor space where we could make our giant puppets. So yeah, and then we performed downstairs. Theater X was there also. And
oh, that's where Theater X was at. Okay.
Yes. So we started performing there. It was a very small theater, but it was kind of a hub of creativity, which was a lot of fun. And then we toured all over. There was a lot of different spaces in Milwaukee where we performed. So, and then we also did a tremendous amount in the schools. We did a lot of arts residencies as well. And then Raphael Smith and I traveled all over the state doing residencies, and nobody had ever seen a Black person before in a lot of these towns. Everyone loved Ralph because he was really short and extremely wiry, and he could recite Fire Sign Theater backwards and forwards. They were like, what was that?
Barbara, where is he now? Where is this person you're talking about?
Raphael was in the accident with me. He was So he got a piece of steel through his head.
Oh,
And so he had a heavy duty brain injury. And a couple of years after that, he would have these epileptic seizures. And he was in bed and he had a seizure, flipped over, and he suffocated.
Oh,
Wow.
Barbara, Marguerite Matthews, was Theater X the theater that was run by Elizabeth Fuller?
Not run, but there was a collective.
Yeah, I've been presented them at my space now in Portsmouth several times, but since they closed, I think Theater X was one of their theaters that they had done. Trying to think what her husband's name is. Oh dear, I'm not.
It was Bishop. It was Bishop.
Yes.
Bishop. That's it.
Elizabeth
Yeah.
Bishop
So,
and-
so it is.
yeah.
It's they're a couple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing they did for us, they were touring in their car, coming from California all the way across the United States, where I'm in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and they would be sleeping in their cars in truck stops. They
Wow.
take all their stuff out of their car and put it under their car, and they're like in their 70s doing this.
It was Conrad Bishop.
Conrad
and Elizabeth
Bishop, yes, and they did
Conrad,
a
yeah.
two-person King Lear that was incredible. It was amazing. That's the last time.
Oh,
They were supposed to come one more time, but because of the pandemic, they couldn't come.
Rosalie, are you still performing or working with other actors or dancers? What are you up to these days?
Thank you for asking. Okay. Yes, well, I formed the Daystar Dance Company in 1980.
Yes.
And
yes.
I've managed to keep it going, all these years. And just in November, actually first week of December of 2021, I did a special performance here in Rochester, New York, which I called a gala, but it was signifying 41 years of Daystar Dance Company. And we had, I think it was 5 performers. I didn't perform, but I did some storytelling and kind of pulling out some things from when I formed the company, which was in Wisconsin, Dells. And our first show at that time was a Northwest Coast story called Changer. And I think we had like 5 people at that time also. And the company made these Northwest Coast blankets, which have the clan symbol on them, animal symbols, and white buttons to highlight those animals. And I still have those blankets.
Wow.
And they're still in good shape. I can't believe it. I mean, it's not as if they've been in mothballs either. But I pulled those out and we recreated those dances, a bear dance, a raven dance, a crane dance, and with myself doing live drums, singing, and instruments. So that's what we just did. And we're doing, like little shows in the schools, like elementary schools, and some, theater venues here in Rochester. I don't really travel with it anymore because that's too much. But I have like 3, 4, 5 people that
I can draw on. Interestingly enough, none of them are Native American. There's a Japanese professional dancer, a dancer originally from Mexico, and some, local people. So my, when I first started Daystar Dance Company, it was all Native performers because I was in New Mexico, and because I was teaching at the Institute of American Indian Arts there, IAIA, which is the only college even today that offers training in visual and performing arts for Native peoples across North America. They have about 500 students. So I could draw from, students I was teaching there. And we were able to do that for like about 20 years, I guess. And then after that, I had to really draw from wherever I happened to be living. So, off and on, I was living in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wisconsin. Now I'm here in Rochester, New York. So I just draw from the local dancers, performers who might be interested in doing Native American dance story, mask dance storytelling. So I think there's a little bit of, well, very much a niche there of what we offer. So I think that's why I've been able to, continue to this point.
Great.
So that's what I've been doing.
Oh, thank you, Rosalie.
Wonderful.
What a legacy. We have one more component of our meeting left before we wrap up and go into our Sunday evenings. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Aiden. John, I think you've got some trivia questions.
Oh, no.
Correct. And actually, Bill Rao, he brought up that he found an exam when it was at from the 74, 77 year, the students there, somebody had put together a final exam. And Bill kept this, and we looked at it. It's a little like, it was very funny. It was very, very clever. Still not sure who did it. But we pulled out some of these, and some of them have unique answers. There's no one answer. But at the very end, there's some very specific answers, questions. There's about 5 of them. And then who answers those will be able to get one of Reid's books. Okay. All right. So, so let me read this and we'll proceed. And again, this was the final exam for the 1976-77 year. At the end of that year, somebody put this together. So some of you will know these very well. Some, it'll probably still sound somewhat familiar.
John, before you ask them, how should, if one of us has an answer, should we just say that out? Should we raise a hand?
Let's do raise a hand. Let's do raise a hand.
We all know how to use the raise the hand feature.
Yeah, or even if you just put it up on the screen.
Okay,
and
if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a reaction button. And if you plug on that, you can raise your hand there.
Oh.
There, I just raised my hand.
Okay.
I can lower my hand.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, John, sorry.
And then Craig and Karen and Bill, you kind of help see who got their hand up first too, if there's several. All right. So first question is multiple choice. That improv was A, fine, B, very fine, C, best to date. 2, what is Grace's first name? Stupendous, Murgatroyd, or amazing? What was Reid Gilbert's occupation before becoming a mime? A Baptist minister? A Baptiste minister? A Methodist minister? Or method actor? I heard Marty Schwartz. How many degrees does E. Reid Gilbert have?
Whoa.
5. The correct answer is 5. 5 academic various degrees. And now this is a tricky one. This is a thought question. A man wants to go to New York City. He has all the money he needs. He has all the time he needs, but he can't go to New York. Why not? Any guesses on that?
Marguerite?
Because he's in New York.
There we go.
Right.
Who got that?
Always good at those kinds of questions.
Marguerite.
Marguerite. Okay. All right, so these, now we're in truth or dare. Now these have very specific answers for you. Everybody has their own correct answer. So, and I'm not going to make anyone divulge their answer right now. But number one, do you believe in the Oracle of Delphi?
What?
Remember the Oracle of Delphi? It was a big summer production. How often do you ask for the ballet combination to be repeated? Have you ever laughed during a serious improv?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now we're getting to the extra credit. And so that's time. If you think you know the answer, raise your hand and then we'll check. And on this first question, the Gilbert sisters are excluded from answering this, but I'll call on them to verify the answer. What does the E in E. Reid Gilbert stand for?
Oh, Joe.
Edward?
Joe.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, I saw your hand up. Sorry,
Yeah,
Joe.
yeah, it's a technical glitch.
No problem.
Sorry.
Anyone?
How about
Marguerite?
Is it Edward? I think it's Edward, right?
It's Edward.
I think it's Edward.
Oh.
No,
Karen?
no.
It's
Adrian? Anyone else?
Eddie?
Eddie.
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 Oh, not Edward, but Eddie?
Eddie.
Well, that's a truncated Edward.
Did he used to say it was Edward?
No.
No.
Sorry.
No. No, when you were mad, you call him Edward.
Edward Gilbert.
But Marguerite, that was the closest. So you'll get a book, okay?
You get a book. You get a book. You get a book.
All right. Who is Big Biddy?
Big Betty?
Big Biddy.
Biddy.
It's Tom Lebhart, Tom and Sally's cat.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
I remember
I forgot
she was
about that.
referred to as Miss Biddy.
There was they
Okay.
used to be Itty Bitty and Big Bitty, but Itty
Oh,
Bitty
yeah, that's
died.
right.
Doobie, you can't answer this one, but you have to verify the correct answer. Okay? What is the complete real name of Doobie?
You mean my full name?
Yes. So hold it.
Only name I've had.
Anyone?
Terry Kerr has her
Terry
hand
Kerr.
up.
I believe it is Kay Elaine Wakawiki Doobie Potter.
Oh,
Right?
Is that right, Doobie?
Wakawiki Doobie Potter.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Kay Elaine Wakawiki Doobie Potter. I love to say it, so I've always remembered it.
Yeah.
So good, Terry.
All right. What is the generic term of K-bird? K-bird. Who is K-bird and where did it come from?
It's Karen.
Is it Karen?
Name for Karen.
Yeah, it's Karen, K-Bird.
And where did it come from, Mr. Suker?
Oh, yeah, Robert.
I don't know. I thought I invented it, but maybe someone else did.
No, you invented it because of Karen, a little wren. A little
That's
wren.
Bird, duh.
Hey, Ren.
All right.
So who guessed it? I'm sorry, I didn't see. Did
Robert.
anybody- Robert. Oh my God, that's like cheating. Okay.
Well, he forgot that he invented it. So, all right. We have one more. Who is Swami John?
That's you.
That's you.
Who said that?
I did.
I
Doobie.
did.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have. But we want to do this as a tribute for Reid, but Reid was always funny. We want to finish with some fun. So
Yeah, thanks,
he was
John.
like as wonderful as he was and as thoughtful, he was still always funny, so that's what I have, and we'll get some books out to these folks in the next, and the books we have will be Valley Studio, More Than a Place, Trickster Jack, Whimsical Limericks that Reid wrote. And this is a wonderful book, The 12 Houses of My Childhood, which spend a lot of time about his early years, and
Oh, yeah. I don't have
stories that tell what can't be told, Reid's memoirs. And they're wonderful books. They're wonderful stories. So we'll get those out to these folks. Okay.
If anyone if any of the winners already have the books or have one of the books, if they could let us know, that would be helpful in sending out the correct book. So you don't have two of one.
And use the email address, the Valley email, to send your physical address to, and we'll mail the book to you then.
Okay.
That's valleystudio@fabyes.com, all small letters.
So Doobie, Robert, Terry, Marguerite. Right?
That is so funny.
Robert.
I want to thank, oh, I'm sorry.
Whatever happened to Henri?
Oh, wow.
Oh, Henri is still, he's joined our Facebook group. He's retired from teaching, correct, Robert?
That's correct. In San Diego.
San Diego.
Wow.
Yeah, he's as radical as he ever was.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Totally.
What was he teaching?
He taught French and Spanish to, kids living near the border there.
Wow.
Yeah. He came here without any, I don't think he even finished high school, but he got his graduate degree. He paid for it all himself. He's a self-made guy, and now he owns a house, and he's such a wonderful friend. I'm so blessed by him.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. No, he's a phoenix if there ever was one. I think there are a few phoenixes here. You can tell by the singed hair.
Well, I think we can bring our meeting to a gentle close, and I just want to thank everybody for attending this meeting, and sharing stories about Reid and our time at the Valley Studio and other enterprises that we've all had the great benefit to be a part of. The presentation by Barbara Lee on Capote Valley Studio, we've rescheduled that. We're going to take a break this summer and not have any more of the resume unions until we get into September. And that is when Barbara will present her PowerPoint covering the important parts of her PhD thesis from 1974. Yes, a thesis that I see quoted again and again and again and again whenever I look up academic research on the Vieux Colombier and Jacques Capote's work. So that'll be an exciting presentation. We, of course, encourage everybody out there to come forward and make an offer to do a focused presentation at future resume unions. We would like to see each of these meetings have a codified and structured presentation, if at all possible. So we'll start that in September. Meanwhile, we'll maintain the page. We'll maintain sending out alerts and notices via the email list that we have. And of course, on August 6th, will be a memorial for a beloved Reid in Tucson. It will be a Zoom live stream memorial service. Once the family has that information, we'll spread it like a beacon on the Facebook page as well as with our emails. And if possible, if that memorial is recorded, then likely we'll be able to post that in postscript on the Facebook page as well. And also, meanwhile, keep your eyes peeled. James Donlin and Karen Hoyer's Mime Radio Show. I would surmise likely August or September, you'll be releasing the interview that you did with Barbara last week. So that'll be exciting. And this show is fabulous. So it's a podcast. Ironically enough, we've got Mimes on podcasts. So I encourage everybody to look it up. Just Google Mime Radio Show.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, we've already interviewed Marguerite and Joan.
That's right.
Marguerite's actually, her interview is archived and Joan is in the next batch to come up. Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, thank you. And with that, again, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful summer. And we'll look to see you all sooner or at least later in September. Thank you.
Thanks so much, as they say.
Thank you.
I'll be releasing the archive of this show later tonight on the Facebook page.
Vielen Dank.
Isn't it?